Good morning, guys. Welcome to another adventure. I'm happy to be here in my hometown of Jurmala, the Riviera of the North, and I'm super happy and excited to be in this sometimes a little bit skeptical Porsche 911 996. I think it's not a secret these days that buying a 911 is quite an expensive task. The base models of the new 992s, they start 120, 140,000 euros, dollars, depending on where exactly you're located. 991s in a good package and a good options, easily 100k plus, although a few years ago I still remember you could find good decent value options for 75, 80. 997 market is completely dry, at least here in Europe. Finding a good option in first place is quite tough. The market currently is not that big, and was considered for a long time the best entry price level classic styling 911, and from that you can jump back to early 90s to 993, which is personally my favorite 911, but price wise for those the starting point roughly in the market is 75,000 euros, and I can't guarantee that that's not going to be a cabriolet or Targa, because hardtops, they come significantly more expensive than the soft rooftops. So it leaves us, or for people who want to enter 911 lineup of Porsche, to look at the ugly duckling of the Porsche 911 family, which is this 996, and in particular option I have the first generation. 996 gets hated a lot design wise, and the whole Boxster and 996 story of the 90s, to which I will return back later. But I think one important thing that not too many like to mention is technologically car was quite the breakaway from what 993 was. It's the first water-cooled Porsche. It had to comply at that time with already increasing emission standards. Both the chassis, both the engine was, I mean, in general, completely something new for Porsche brand as such. And I think rightfully it's not always mentioned in a good way how much 996 actually brought to the 911 family when it comes to technologies and development. As you know, I like to talk about the secondary markets a lot, and when talking about 996, one important thing I have noticed at this stage is a lot of people have changed their opinion about the 996, the Mk2 version, which was basically visual and also slightly power performance update from the Mk1 version. It had the headlights from the Turbo S and the GT models, which was very funny enough. In the 90s, as many of you might know, both the Boxster and 996, and the Boxster at that time was considered to be a savior, which actually it was for quite struggling Porsche brand in the 90s. But many 911 owners, or the 996 first generation owners, said the headlights are too undistinguishable from the Boxster, and they felt that they have purchased a premium product and they're not really getting the visual service for it. So for the generation 2, as I said, the turbo style or the GT style headlights came on, and as I said, for the used market, I'm a little bit happy that I see more and more the Mk2 generation 996 being bought, being sold, being rebuilt, and often not being considered as sometimes unrightfully called worst 911 from the total Porsche 911 lineup. So that brings me hope, or that brings me I would say, expectation that at some point also the Mk1, which I agree is definitely not the most visually pleasing or most visually classic Porsche, that it could at some point have the same story as the Mk2 once we know the availability of them runs out or limits itself on a market. And also for today, I'm super happy to tell you guys that I have my first partnership, and I'm more than beyond ecstatic, thankful, and I have to say thanks for the trust for the guys from Youngtimer EU. They're a company that imports pristine Porsches and also beyond from Japan in the European Union. They have a good lineup already available on their website. I'll leave the link below, and they are phenomenal car guys that, you know, talk about cars. They know about cars, and they have a long history of importing particularly Porsches, and particularly this one. And what's important, why we talk a lot about price in this video initially, you can actually buy this 996 directly from them in very decent condition, I have to say, for 22,000 euros. Think about it. Take a look how much Boxsters cost. Take a look what can you get for 996, and also take a look of this car, because visually and both technically, gearbox, oil, coolants, engine, everything is in a more than pristine condition. And of course, you know, it's a 30-year-old car. There you can have some interior visual small scratches, but beyond that, for 22,000 euros in current market circumstances, I think it's a phenomenal deal. I mentioned about the Riviera of the North not without a reason. Jurmala is famous in the Northern Europe of having quite, I don't know, vast amount of supercars, these days also hypercars and etc. And I can tell you one thing what I have noticed during the last 2 days. Even when driving 996, people tend to look at you. I mean, the car, it grabs some attention. I don't think that the newer 992s are, you know, don't get me wrong, it's a stunning car, I love it, it's beautiful, it's, yeah, I wish I would own one day. But people look at 996, especially if it's like a pristine condition like this one, because it's visually appealing, it looks nice, it's interesting, it's Youngtimer at some point, I believe, to be a classic, and I think a lot of people find it interesting, and I have noticed sides, looks, left and right, and people look at this car, the way it looks, the way it sounds, with the honest interest. To conclude the video and answer one important question, is 996 truly a 911? Will it be interesting in a market at some point? The short answer is yes. I think we need to let time to do its thing. Perception will do its thing on its own. We can see it with the 996 Mk2, we can see it with the 944, total renaissance of that model. And I think at some point 996, the Mk1, it will simply have its own historical timeline amongst the 911 lineups. And for those who still want to you know, argue about what is a Porsche, what is not a Porsche, I just want to remind you guys, any Porsche is better than no Porsche, and always will be. Until next time.